Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing a review of the new Tarte Rainforest of the Sea, water foundation, as well as the Tarte Rainforest of the Sea Aquasealer. I will get into the details here in a bit. I'm actually on my way to go to lunch with one of my friends, but I wanted to show you my completed makeup. It's now 11:47. So I will check in with you guys after I get back from lunch and periodically throughout the day to show you kind of how this foundation is wearing. And when I get back as well, we'll jump into the review and all the details. Alright guys, so I'm back from lunch. It is now 1:52 in the afternoon, so it's been just a little over 2 hours. And I will say that the foundation is holding up pretty nicely so far. I have usually pretty oily skin. At the moment I'm very combination because I got a chemical peel a few days ago and I still have a lot of dry patches. I haven't completely peeled, so like all in this area, my forehead, I have a lot of dry patches. So I'd say right now at the moment I'm combination, and it's holding up pretty well in my T-zone. It's not getting too oily. I haven't touched up or anything at all other than my lips because I did eat. But I would say that the foundation is holding up pretty nicely. My blush, my highlighter, bronzer, everything's still in place. But of course I'll check back with you guys later on throughout the day. Hey guys, so I'm checking back in. I did change my lip color just because I was doing another video. But it is now 4:50 and I've had the foundation on for 5 hours. This will be my last check-in because I do gotta run. I gotta go to Zumba. But I wanted to show you how the foundation is wearing. As you can see, I'm starting to get a little oily in the T-zone, and that's typical for me. Any foundation I wear, usually about this point, is when I need to start blotting or put a little bit of powder or something, just because I have very oily skin. But I think it's wearing pretty nicely. You know, blush, bronzer, highlight, everything is holding up pretty well. And even though I'm oily, you know, I don't feel like it's horrible. You know, I feel like it still looks pretty natural on the skin, but just for my personal preference, I would love to blot at this point. But I think the foundation's holding up pretty nicely. It's not clinging to any of my dry patches, which is a huge perk for me. So overall, I think this is 2 thumbs up. Alright guys, so let's jump into the review portion. So I will say that I've worn the Tarte Rainforest of the Sea foundation all day. I work 10-hour shifts and then I have about an hour drive to and from work. So I've worn it for 12 plus hours and I was completely impressed with this foundation. I have oily, you know, sometimes combination skin where I can get dry patches, especially from like my acne, topical medications and whatnot. But I will say that it held up extremely well throughout the day. With any foundation, I don't care what foundation it is, I will have to blot maybe like 4 or 5 hours into the foundation. But this one just looked so beautiful on the skin. It didn't like lift off the skin like some foundations can. You know, when you have oily skin, sometimes it'll kind of like lift off my skin in the T-zone and just be like sitting there and you can like wipe it off basically with your hands. This one settles into the skin nicely. It kind of just melts into the skin. It's very lightweight, not heavy at all. It feels kind of moisturizing but not oily, and I think that's because it's a water-based foundation. So I have nothing but good things to say about this foundation other than the color selection I wasn't completely happy with. I think the shade that I picked out is a little light for me, but the shade that's kind of up, you know, a shade or 2 darker, it's a little too peachy undertoned. So that's kind of the only downfall, you know, or con that I have with this foundation. This foundation retails for $39. It's 1 ounce in size. You can purchase it at Sephora or I believe through like the Tarte website. They do not carry this at Ulta, but it comes in 12 different shades. And like I said, the color range I don't think is great. There's not a lot of options for darker skin tones, and for medium skin tones with like yellow, more warm toned, you know, undertones, I don't think there's very many selections either. It looks like there's a nice selection as far as for fair skin tone goes. I use this shade light medium neutral, and it's a nice tone as far as it has like a yellowy undertone, which is perfect for me, but I feel like it's a little bit too light And especially now going, you know, further into spring and then into summer, I know I'm going to get a little bit darker just naturally being outside more. So I probably will have to mix this foundation or go pick up maybe a little darker shade and kind of mix the two together. There wasn't one shade that I loved that was a little bit darker that still had that yellow undertone. You know, when I went darker, it was more peachy undertoned. So I'm going to have to like play with it and see what to do for the, you know, summer months. And basically what this foundation claims is it's a lightweight, full coverage, hydrating foundation infused with Tarte's Rainforest of the Sea complex and non-chemical SPF 15 sunscreen. I definitely agree with that. I feel like it's lightweight. I feel like it's like maybe medium coverage with one application, but it's definitely buildable to full coverage. And usually that's what I'll do. Usually I'll use maybe 2 pumps for the whole face, and I feel like it gives you a nice medium to full coverage. And then sometimes I'll use a little extra just like on the area where I have more blemishes or discoloration and just kind of build it up. So I definitely think it's buildable to full coverage. It definitely feels hydrating as it claims. And then it's nice because it has a non-chemical SPF 15 sunscreen. And I think it's perfect for the spring and summer months because it feels very lightweight. You know, you can wear, you know, moderate coverage if you want and definitely build it up to full coverage without it feeling heavy or cakey. And then the built-in SPF 15 is an added plus. So this is definitely going to be one of my, you know, favorite go-to foundations for the spring and summer months. And now moving on to the concealer. The Aquasealer retails for $26, and same thing, you can purchase it at Sephora or through the Tarte website. They don't sell these at Ulta. And this comes in 6 different shades. I'm in the shade light medium, and I'm pretty happy with the color of this concealer. It has like that yellow undertone. It's not too light, you know, I think it still gives me like a highlighted effect under the eyes while at the same time concealing. So I was, you know, happy with the selection of the concealer shades. And in all honesty, I'm pretty impressed with this concealer. If you watch my channel, you know that I'm obsessed with the Urban Decay Naked Weightless Concealer. That's pretty much all I use ever since I purchased that. I think I've gone through maybe about 3 tubes of that now. That's the only concealer I've ever gone through like an entire tube. I don't think I've ever done that ever. And I've gone through almost, I think I'm on my 3rd one right now, and I probably need a new one in the next month or so. But I'm just obsessed with that concealer, and I will say that this little guy it's giving it a run for its money, definitely. I've only worn it about 3 times now, and so I think I'll have to test it out a little bit more to say for sure, you know, if this has replaced my Urban Decay Naked Concealer, or at least kind of use them interchangeably. I think at minimum, I will probably be using them interchangeably. I really liked this concealer. Very lightweight, yet good coverage. Didn't feel heavy or cakey at all in the under eye area. And I do have a very dry under eye area, even though I'm very oily throughout the rest of my face. But I feel like it sits very nicely on the skin. Minimal creasing. For me, there's no product out there that has like 0 creasing. I will get a little bit of creasing, you know, throughout the day as I wear my concealer, and I think most people will if you have fine lines. You know, you can do, you know, set it and various things to try and prevent that, but you know, my Urban Decay Naked Weightless Concealer is the one that I've found to be the least amount of creasing throughout the day for me personally, and this little guy has definitely kept up with it. I think it wore nicely throughout the day. I have worn it, like I said, on a few different occasions, and what I did find with it is that I liked to have a lighter dust of powder over it to set it. Usually I use my Laura Mercier translucent setting powder, and normally I use a brush to set it, but for some reason the other day I used my beauty blender to set it, and I feel like I got a heavier layer of translucent powder, and it didn't wear as nicely. I feel like it didn't crease necessarily, but it looked a little heavy on the under eye area. So I think using this with a light, just a light dust of translucent powder to set it worked the best for me personally. But in all honesty, I don't have anything bad to say about this concealer at all. It's definitely a new favorite. I'm just curious to see how it competes next to, you know, my Naked concealer. So I'm going to test it out, you know, definitely a lot more. I'm sure you'll see this in upcoming tutorials. But yeah, I think overall it was a nice purchase. I'm planning on keeping this. I thought maybe I would have to take it back if I wasn't satisfied, but no, I think it's a great concealer. I've used it to highlight throughout the high points of my face as well, and same thing, it doesn't get cakey. It works very nicely with the Tarte Rainforest foundation. I haven't tried it with anything else, but I think it's a beautiful concealer. Very lightweight, like I said, but yet, you know, good coverage and doesn't get cakey. So, you know, I think that's perfect for a concealer.
Alright guys, so I'm going in with the Tarte Rainforest of the Sea Water Foundation. I'm in the shade Light Medium Neutral, and as you can see, this is the packaging here. This is a little dropper that it comes with, so you just push that little button when you want to release the product. And I'm starting by just tapping this or dotting this all over my face, and I've already primed my face using the Tarte Clean Slate Poreless Primer, and I'm going to be doing half of my face using a brush and the other half using my Real Techniques Beauty Sponge. So I'm using this Morphe foundation brush, and I'll list the number down below in the description bar because I don't recall which brush this is exactly, but I'm starting by just tapping this into my skin, and then I will go in and start to buff that more into the skin. When I'm a little more on the oily side, I prefer the brush over the beauty sponge or beauty blender, just because I feel like I get kind of a more full coverage application, I guess you can say, and a little more matte, whereas the beauty sponge or beauty blender is going to give you a little bit more moisture. So being that my skin is kind of peeling and dry at the moment, I preferred the beauty sponge today. So I'm showing you the other half, but I think both work very nicely. You can use whichever works best for you. But if you have any dry patches, or you're, you know, kind of more on the dry to normal side of skin type, you might prefer a beauty sponge or beauty blender. So I'm just dabbing that all into the skin, and as you can see, this foundation's a little too light for me, but we're going to make it work today. And I wanted to see if this was buildable, so as you can see, I have a few blemishes there on my cheek, so I'm putting in a little extra product, just tapping it on, and then I'll go blend it out. And I think this foundation is very buildable. I only used 2 drops to do the whole face, and it gave me like a nice medium to full coverage, I think, application, and it's definitely buildable if you want to cover any more blemishes or, you know, dark spots in your skin tone. So I think you can definitely build this up to full coverage without it looking cakey or heavy. And now I'm going in with the Tarte Rainforest of the Sea Aquasealer Concealer, and as you can see, it has a nice doe foot applicator, and this is in the shade Light Medium. So I'm just taking that to my under eye area, and this does have kind of like a scent to it. I don't know how I would describe it. It's a little strong when you smell it out of the actual bottle, but I don't really notice it when I'm putting it on my face, and it definitely doesn't stay there throughout the day. So if you're sensitive to smell, you may not like this in particular. I didn't think it was too strong, but anyways, just a side note. And I'm just blending that out with my damp Real Techniques Beauty Sponge, and I think this blends nicely into the skin. It's very lightweight, nothing cakey, but yet has good coverage. As you can see, it covered up all my dark circles and the discoloration I have on my eyelids, and it blends very nicely into the foundation as well. And I'm setting this with my Laura Mercier translucent powder, and it does not get cakey or heavy at all with setting this. I think you definitely need to set your concealer always to prevent any creasing. And I also decided to take a little bit of this to the high points of my face just to see how it is on the rest of the face. You know, I did a little bit of highlighting just because the concealer is a little bit lighter than my skin tone. So just blending that out with a Real Techniques sponge. And same thing, this didn't get heavy or cakey at all throughout the face. So if you plan on using this to highlight throughout your face, I think this will work fine as well. It's definitely very lightweight, doesn't feel heavy on the skin either. And this is the completion of the review and demo. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching as always. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in my next video.